And we are live. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlethems, all my friends, folks, guys, gals, non-binary pals, all my peoples. I see y'all. I love y'all. And we are live, VODPOD Media, here on the east side of downtown San Antonio. San Antonio, the city. Can I say that the Spurs might go ahead and do some damage in the playoffs? I mean, did they put the Lakers out? This ain't sports talk radio yet, but next week it might be. We'll give you a hint to our guest as of next week. We are live as always on Wednesday night. I'm your host as always, Mr. Maximo. You don't got to call me Mr. You know I like having fun. And we're having some fun tonight. We're a little late. We're a little tardy, but as they say, better late than never. And I'm here with my good friend, Mr. Fernando Rover Jr., is it?
Yes, sir. It is.
It's good to see you, sir.
It's good
live,
to see you.
Live and in person. The last time I saw you, we were at a park.
Yes, we were.
Was that the last time I seen you?
That was the last time you saw me. Mm-hmm.
We were at a park, and we were barbecuing up. We were just having fun in the summertime, and we were talking about this before the cameras came on of how we are operating in a post-COVID world. Now, granted, COVID has not gone anywhere. COVID is still here.
Right.
There are infections still happening, but I think that most folks, for better or for worse, are ready for this thing to be over with.
Oh, definitely.
What are your thoughts on this whole COVID thing, man? Let's just get into it.
I have a lot of thoughts.
Well, let's hear them.
You know, one of the things I will say about COVID is that it definitely was the break that we all didn't think we needed, but we actually needed. You know, it was the 2 years that we were stationary. I think a lot of people took stock of what they were doing and kind of what trajectory their life was going on. And that's why you have all these, like the Great Resignation, where there's a bunch of people that are quitting their jobs or changing their jobs or shuffling their positions. I just think that we were in a place where we were just kind of going on this trajectory. And then just when it hit, I mean, granted, we don't need a pandemic for us to slow down. I think, you know, we could have had other things to slow us down, but sometimes the most chaotic things are the things that you need to slow down. So I think it was something that made us all, whether we wanted to or not, really take stock of what we were doing with our time.
There's definitely a big shakeup, and maybe we needed it, you know, for better or for worse. I mean, you know, some people have still not recovered from COVID per se. I think recovery is a safe word. You asked me earlier about my Instagram handle name, Blurb Smith Blots. Yeah. I've always considered myself to be like a wordsmith, but more than just one word, blurbs, maybe in short blurbs, right? And so I try to be careful with my words and how I choose them. I'm very particular, as I'm sure you are as well, with strategically how you place words and how you speak them, how you bring them and give them life. You know, words are important.
Definitely.
We're going to talk a little bit about that in your artistry here in just a bit. But I got to give a shout out to Mr. Gylan Jackson in all of his glory, wherever he is right now. Because, man, this guy's been producing some successful streams, some successful business here at VODPOD Media. So if you're watching this, go ahead and subscribe, like these pages, whether it be YouTube, Facebook, wherever it may be. Find us here at VODPOD, folks, because we're breaking ground. We're shaking things up here at this table ourselves. Media, independent media, people out here talking, and us defining and creating our own narratives, which is extremely important. Very. And as someone who picks up the pen, or do you type mostly? How do you write?
I do both. I type and I write.
So let's go back, because I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
Let's give you the grand introduction. So Mr. Fernando Rover, born and raised in San Antonio, Texas. Yep. In your words, for the audience out there, who are you? Give us the intro.
I am Fernando Rover Jr., and I'm an artist. I am motivated by the 3 C's of life: creativity, curiosity, and complication.
Ooh.
I look at life as I look at it as different types of visions and different types of items and different types of symbols, and trying to find the language that connects it all together. You know, I think that for me, you know, my main vehicle has been poetry for a long time, and I consider poetry like the architecture of language, because you really have to be very strategic about how you design your narrative. Because I think, with fiction or with nonfiction, you can just type, the story as it comes to you. But with poetry, you really have to be deliberate about the sounds you use, the metaphors you use, and really have to be creative in the story you're telling, and also the impact of emotion you're trying to get at. So I think that for me, poetry has been the perfect way for me to tackle both creativity, curiosity, and complication. Because I feel like a lot of my poems, a lot of my ideas are words or are stories that are not often talked about. I tackle topics like mental health, and I talk about, how, first of all, just being vulnerable as a Black man. That's something that is, it's becoming more and more encouraged.
Sure.
But we still have a long way to go before
Absolutely.
it's accepted.
Absolutely, we do. So we were talking about a lot of things earlier when we got you in here, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I feel really honored to be here.
Yeah, I mean, part of what we want to do here is do a lot of different things. A lot of people have been asking me, "Hey, Maximo, what's your podcast about?" Well, we don't really have a theme per se. I mean, we do, but we don't. We want to bring, real, everyday, genuine, authentic people to the table and have authentic conversations. There is value. There is merit in us just having a healthy conversation. Whether or not you and I have a title, whether you and I have written 3 books, whether I have, 1 million Instagram followers, whether I'm, I have a Hollywood star on the Walk of Fame, whether I'm Chris Rock, who just got the crap slapped out of me, a couple of weeks ago, right? And all of a sudden I went global and mainstream, right? There's value in us just being us. Everyday heroes are people like you and I. They're the teachers, they're the nurses, they're the people that lend a hand to people when they need help, right?
Yeah.
And so we do a lot of different things at this table on this show, but I think one of the common themes is being inspiring. Mm-hmm. And so we bring people to the table that are inspiring in some form or fashion. I think for you, I've always seen you as like a quiet genius. You know what I mean?
Well,
like that. Have you ever gotten that before?
I have gotten that I'm quiet and I'm very humble.
Well, you're very talented as well.
Yeah.
And so, when you talk about let's stay on the topic of, Black and brown men, because you and I have shared spaces where we're actively gathering amongst Black and brown men. And you mentioned we have a long ways to go, right? What are some of the issues that Black and brown men face, that you've experienced in San Antonio and beyond in this country? I mean, let's just start there.
I think that we as black and brown men have faced the fact that we are multifaceted beings in a world that's constantly trying to make us monolithic. It's constantly trying to make us all the same and stereotypically the same, and we're not. We're very different, and there's a level of hypocrisy that comes with it because, we're in this world that says, be who you are and be who you want to be. But then sometimes, especially as a Black and brown man, who you are can sometimes be too much for other people. And so you really have to decide whether or not you're going to stomach yourself and really kind of try to fit in. For me, I've never wanted to fit in. I've always been someone that has known he's been different. Has there been moments where I wanted to be like anybody else? Absolutely. That's something that we all go through. But I think as I gotten older and I realized that I was made this way for a reason, I write the way I write for a reason, I see the world the way I see it for a reason, and if there's not a space for me to put, that energy, I'll create my own space. So I think that we're at a point where we are finding our steps in that, we're realizing that, we're not monolithic and we're trying to find a place where we can exist within that. But I think as far as platforms and spaces like you were mentioning before, we just need more of them. There's a lot of them now, but we just need more.
Yeah. And that's, that's key in a lot of spaces. You talked about, your background as a writer. Have you always been into writing and
oh, definitely.
Creating?
I've always been someone with an active imagination. I remember when I was 6 years old and I would watch, I was a keen watcher of things. I would be very quiet and I'd watch people walk by, or I'd watch a bird fly in the sky, and I would turn to a journal or a notebook or something, and I would just write it down, or I would create a story in my head. I had a very active imagination, and that's not changed as I've gotten older. It's gotten more and more active. It's gotten more and more advanced. I think the more I read and the more I ingest information and ingest media, I see different narratives and different ideas. And so, I've always been someone that's been again, curious and creative, and again, complicated because I am a black man in America. There's you can't get any more complicated than that. So it's just one of those things where I just exist and coexist in my complication as opposed to like running from it.
So give me your thoughts on, the black community period, let's say in San Antonio.
The black community in San Antonio is special because, San Antonio is not a predominantly African-American city, but the history here is very rich, especially if you go on the east side of town and like, the stories of everyone from Reverend Claude Black to Reverend Callies who create the MLK March and all the other unsung heroes that we don't see a lot in history books. We know the importance of our history, but I think sometimes we get caught up in the crab bucket mentality where, we want to be like the prime person. And then we realize, okay, well, there can be multiple of us. Like there doesn't have to be just one person that's in their own lane. All of us can exist in multiple lanes and all of us can work together. So I think that, but we are moving into a good space though, where I see more collaborations among other organizations. I see more, I see much more activism happening where we're actually taking a lot of action on things that have been going on in the city for a long time. Yeah. I think people are just fed up with it. So I think, we've gotten far, but we have a long way to go.
Yeah. And there's work to be done, and shout out to everybody doing the work because change happens slowly.
Yeah.
But one of the things I was talking to you earlier about, particularly that I've learned through my training, it isn't about becoming the best overnight.
Right.
Results are the manifestation of consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to be consistent with this work, and you got to be consistent. You got to show up. Showing up is half the battle.
It is.
Just being here, being there, being out on the street, being at City Hall, being wherever it takes,
mm-hmm.
at the schools, mentoring kids. We do have a lot of work to do, but we've got to stay positive. We've got to stay enriched. We've got to stay on the up and up with it, man. So that's important. So you just wrote a book, I understand.
I did. I wrote my third poetry book.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And so it's self-published. What's the title of the book?
Maverick.
Okay. And you told me that the book is an idea or a result of something you've called gentrification.
Mm-hmm.
And so talk to me about that.
Yeah. So it really is a project that was inspired by gentrification of the San Antonio East Side. As somebody that's from San Antonio, I've seen so much change happen over the last. I'm only 28, so I've seen it like as time goes on. I'm sure there was tons of change that happened even before I was even born. But in the last 10, 15 years, I've seen a lot of change in terms of like space inhabitancy, and one of the things that I started doing during the pandemic, because, everything was shut down, we couldn't go to the movies, we couldn't go to a concert, we couldn't really go anywhere. So when cabin fever did set in and it set in with me, I would go driving. I would just drive around. I would start in my neighborhood and then I would drive around the city and I would just kind of look and just kind of really reassess, the city that I grew up in that at times I thought was, mundane, or I thought wasn't interesting, or I thought was like an everyday thing. I started seeing with like new eyes. And, I started noticing on certain sides of town, there were areas that were they were literally disappearing before our very eyes.
Yeah.
Buildings were like becoming decrepit and just getting torn down, or, you would drive by a certain part of town and you would remember like, oh, that used to be so-and-so. And now it's, this completely refurbished and completely just transformed, space and things like that. And I guess the thing with gentrification is, it's people ask like, well, are you for it or are you against it? And for me, I don't want to lose sight that progress is good. We need progress. We need new sidewalks and new places to gather, and we need funding poured into the city on all sides of town, not just certain parts. But the issue that comes into play when you have all this activity going on for the betterment of one group of people, and those people are not those who actually live there, then that's where the problem comes in.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing, just again on the east side, I've seen so many places where it's like a wasteland, and I remember when I was driving around, and I would literally just type things on my phone, and then I had this idea of, what if I based my next project on this, and I initially got a little nervous because I was like, it's a very hot topic, and will people be okay with it, or will I ruffle some feathers? And the reason why I actually named it Maverick, because if you look up the title, if you look up the definition of the word Maverick, it literally means a nonconformist, someone who is not afraid to rock the boat, to go against the grain, someone who is literally just gonna do what they need to do to make a conversation going. And I think I've always been a maverick, because I've always been someone that doesn't really conform. But I think this project, I was leaning more into it than any of my other projects. And I knew it was something that would be beneficial, not just for me, but just for the betterment of the community. Because, what I've become known for is, in my poetry books, it's not just words, it's images. I love photography. I love having the multimedia relationship of poetry and photography. And I was very excited to take photos of parts of the east side of San Antonio, because I knew that when people would see it, they'd recognize it, and they would have a sense of belonging, a sense of ownership, a sense of understanding, and again, sort of that same sort of renewed sense of pride that I had, when I would drive around San Antonio, and I realized that, oh yes, I'm from here and I grew up here, and I realized that, I kind of forgot, or I kind of didn't really see it as that, but now I do, because it's important.
Yeah, I mean, you're touching on a lot. I mean, one of the things, and folks, if you're from San Antonio and you're watching this now, we have a global audience that people watch this show. People watch this all over. So, but if you're in San Antonio, I got to ask y'all a question. And I'm sure the answer is yes. And I think you know where I'm going. Has the traffic been getting worse around town? Because it absolutely has, if you ask me.
Yes, it has.
And I stay on the northeast side, but my goodness, I don't know what's going on. Is it construction? I mean, if there's one fender bender, I mean, forget it. You ain't going nowhere. Yeah. I mean, I think Houston is notoriously bad, has bad traffic. Like you sitting in traffic in Houston, if you catch it in rush hour, which San Antonio is typically, in my opinion, hasn't been like that, but it's getting worse. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, man, what's going on around here?
Well, since we're on the topic of gentrification, population growth kind of works in tandem with gentrification, because you have these influxes of companies and new folks from different cities who bring their culture here, and they change the culture that's already been here. And, you often, and I think the reason why there's such a big deal and such a big issue with it is because you have literally developers who are making room for these new people by pushing the older people out, and they're displacing them. And that is where the tension is, because it's like you have these inhabitants who have lived in this city and lived in this neighborhood since the beginning, and they again have pride in their house and have pride in their neighborhood, and then through methods like tax abatements and raising housing and all these different things, they're being pushed out of their neighborhoods, and then they come in, they destroy or demolish any older houses, and they build these brand new shiny new houses, and the newer crowd comes in, and it changes the entire face of the community to the point where it's not even recognizable anymore.
Yeah.
And that's where the sense of loss comes in. I remember one of the poems and one of the photographs I took in Maverick, I'll never forget. I was driving on the northeast side. I was driving off on Walsham, and I had to pull over to get something out of my car. So I pulled over, and like how in your car, your side mirror says objects are closer than they appear.
Yeah.
So I was getting something out of my car. I look up and I see this like brick thing in my mirror. So I turn around and I see it's a sign that says "Thank you for shopping at Windsor Park Mall." And I remember, and I just got like this sense of like this like moment of like just silence because you remember that the Rackspace headquarters used to be Windsor Park Mall, and then you remember like how it used to be like the place to be on that side of town, and it was the place to be, and then over time it just became it was lost. It died out because of crime and other activities, like the changing scopes of the community. And you realize that there's a whole generation of people that remember that are mourning that lost, and then there's a young generation that will never know that area. And so you have this everyone has a relationship with gentrification, whether you are someone that's brand new to the city and are just trying to get in to fit in and really make it your home, or it is your home, but you feel a sense of like you feel like a stepchild because you're getting pushed out.
Exactly. And I've seen a lot of people, talk about their love and hate relationship with gentrification, just like you touched on. And so it's not like people don't want to have growth, don't want to see the city not go anywhere.
Definitely.
And that's respect to all cities,
yeah.
Whether it be Detroit, Michigan, San Francisco.
DC. I mean,
people love their spaces. People are affectionately tied to their homes and to their communities where generations have grown up in, houses that they've shared with grandparents and their parents, And so, it's a complicated topic. I'm glad that you're breaking it down for us. But it's a lot to chew on.
It is.
It's a lot to chew on.
And I think as an artist and as a writer, it's our job to not make it easily digestible, but having something there to where you can meditate with it and marinate on it, and that's why I incorporate the photographs into it, because for me, if I just see words, I'm just like, my brain is not, absorbing what I'm reading. But if I see imagery, it's kind of like a little, like a break in between words. Like, okay, I've read this paragraph, I've read this page, and now I see this picture. Now I can kind of meditate, like basically digest what I just read by looking at this image. And so that's really what my main strategy is with poetry and photography, is that I want to give my readers an image of what I see or what inspired me to create the poems that I have, but also for them to kind of for them to come up with their own images and their own ideas based on what they read. Yeah. So we got to take a pause for the cause real quick. Thanks so much to all our viewers, our friends, our followers, the family here through the extension of VODPOD Media here in San Antonio, because we got a lot of supporters, man. We got people watching live. We got to give a shout out to Mickey Sweet, Cheryl Meadow. I hope y'all are doing fabulous. Y'all been with us week after week. We appreciate your support. They say Fernando is an amazing talent and a wonderful person. Amazing. Well, hey, we're glad that we got him in here so he can share some of his words of wisdom. And we're not done with him yet, so don't say goodbye. Kirsten Thompson, as always, coming through. She says, traffic is utterly abysmal, the bane of my existence. Fernando is spot on with his assessment. Gentrification is a major factor. Folks, the traffic's getting worse around here. Yeah. We got to do something about the traffic. I mean, I don't know what it is, but we got to figure something out, whether it's the streetlights, whether it's the roads, whether it's some driver education courses. There's got to be a movement, what do they call that? A campaign for us to get better as drivers and share the space, because people are moving to San Antonio like crazy. Oh, yeah.
People are moving to Texas like crazy. And that's been a topic that everybody knows. Everyone's been talking about. Perhaps it was accelerated through COVID, right? With the governance here, which is a whole nother topic we can get in there. But we got to give a shout out real quick to Kirsten, the host and creator, founder of More Than Magic. You can find her show by subscribing to VODPOD Media. Make sure you do that. You'll find updates on her show as well as several others. We have a whole catalog of shows that we are rolling out here. This show is one of them. And you're going to find some of the most amazing talent, some of the most inspiring people with the realest conversations happening at these tables in these studios. So thank you for being with us. Let's get back to your poetry, sir. How would you describe your poems?
My poems are thoughts and images of the everyday experience through the lens of me, an African American male. You know, I mentioned earlier that, you know, poetry is the architecture of language. So I really feel like my mission or my goal is to create spaces for readers, for audience members, or artists alike to really live in a space where the narratives that are being told are authentic to them as an audience and as me as a writer, you know. And so I think for me, poetry is kind of like a language for me. It is language, and it's something that I fell in love with on accident. It was not something that I decided one day I want to be a poet. It happened a few years ago. I was traveling. I actually went abroad to Scotland for the first time, and I had this idea to write. I mean, again, I've been a writer since I was like 6-7 years old, but you know, it's a special kind of feeling you get when you know you have a story inside of you and you want to get it out, but you just don't know how. Like, what's the medium going to be? And I remember, like, for me, you know, poetry was always something fascinating, but I kind of always thought it was something that I could never do because it was something that I thought it was like a special talent or a special skill, you know. But then I realized that, oh, it's just storytelling, and it's storytelling through emotion and through metaphors, and really it's kind of like a story within a smaller medium. I thought, okay. And then, you know, as I slowly but surely started thinking about, you know, different things and different narratives, it kind of took, I developed my own voice. You know, one of the things that I was very fortunate about when I started writing poetry is that I would have poets telling me, you've got to find your own voice. You know, it's great that you love, you know, Maya Angelou and you love Langston Hughes, but they're already who they are. You can't be them. You know, you got to find your own motivation, your own voice, your own reason for why you want to do it. You know, your motivation for performing, and, you know, how you use your body and your voice as an instrument to bring that narrative to life, you know. And for me, as you mentioned before, I'm very quiet. I'm a quiet genius. You know, I used to think, oh, well, you know, I don't really consider myself a traditional poet, but I guess I am, you know, because even in my quietness, I'm still saying something.
Yeah.
You know, the language is still there. The story is still there in my presence. You know, you may not necessarily see it or hear it, but it's still there. And I think that's where my books come into play. That's where the different visuals I kind of collect and I kind of, you know, put out there. And so, yeah, I would say that that's sort of what poetry is to me.
So, but your work, though, you know, we talk about tradition, and, you know, tradition means a lot of different things, but, you know, Maverick is a good title for it, because what is tradition? Who needs tradition, right? Who wrote tradition? Who created the tradition as it's formally known? And was that meant to be that way, right? And so, you know, one of the things I like about it is it takes a political sort of feel. Now, one of the things we were talking about as well, since we were on the subject and we've got some viewers in San Antonio, we're in San Antonio, which we love. We love San Antonio.
Definitely.
Right? We love San Antonio with all our heart. Go Spurs, go, right?
Yep.
People love the Spurs around here. People love their tacos around here.
Yeah.
All of that, which is great. Which is
Countdown
fun.
City 2-0.
One of the things I want to talk about is, we talked about this earlier, and I'm just going to ask the question for you, for everybody. Was it really 97 degrees in San Antonio this afternoon? Because what the hell's going on around here?
Yeah.
We talked about climate change. And I mean, we got to get serious about climate justice.
Definitely.
You know, this is a topic that is not talked about as much, in my opinion. Now, I know it is talked about, but it ain't talked about that much in our communities, where we're still trying to live under the social circumstances of who we are, right? As men of color, as, you know, complicated human beings. But what about this world around us, man? Because it was 97 degrees today. I mean, it's April. If it's 97 in April, is it going to be 110 in June and July on a random Wednesday? I mean, what's going on around here?
No, you hit the nail on the head. You know, the climate of the world is changing, and it's always been changing. And, you know, climate justice and gentrification are not that. They're very tied together.
Absolutely.
You know, you think of environmental racism, you think of environmental justice, you think of everything that goes on on certain sides of town that doesn't happen on the north side or other parts of town. You know, you think about those things and you realize that, oh, this is not something that just is a happenstance. Even though, yes, the climate changing is somewhat of a happenstance, but the information and the understanding of it has been studied for years to come.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we think about the famous snowstorm of 2021 in February. Snowpocalypse, you know, and we think about how is it that an entire state loses power? That is not something that happens on accident. That is an incessant, intentional misappropriation and misunderstanding and misguidance and mismanagement of not just a community, but an entire state. And you think, and again, you know, you go through the motions, right? You get upset, you get angry. Well, they should have known better, or well, they should have done this, or they should have done that. Then you go into the phase of, well, we got to do something. We have to take action. We have to, you know, go to the city council meetings. We have to go to the CPS meetings. We have to make our voice heard. And then you go through the motion of, okay, we made our voice heard. Now, what do we do so that we don't make sure this doesn't happen again? Are we actually having not just conversations, but are the right people at the table to have those conversations?
Yeah, and then accountability. Who's being held accountable, right, for this? Because I'm glad you mentioned the snowpocalypse. In the two extremes, 97 degrees today and what, a year and a half ago, almost a half. I mean, it was about almost a year, right?
A year ago.
Year and some change ago. Mm-hmm. We had 2 feet of snow or whatever it was. No electricity, people freezing, people dying in the streets. We can talk about houselessness in San Antonio as well, which is another topic that people are pushing because we know about the camps, Tent City, which isn't far from this studio.
Not at all.
And man, these are some real serious issues. Like what's going on? I mean, maybe I'm not as educated and at the forefront of these movements, but man, it's getting worse. The climate, I mean, the gentrification, the traffic, and I mentioned as well as what before we started up, I'm from Michigan, and in Grand Rapids, Michigan, there was an unarmed black man just this week. I think it was yesterday, who was killed by the police. Now, I don't want to get into, anyone's welcome to comment on this. We welcome all the comments, the likes, the shares. I'm not going to get into exactly what happened, but the fact of the matter is we got another brother dead.
Yeah.
And that's something that nobody can dispute.
Right.
It's sad that we wake up to this news every day, which is in front of us because we got our phones in front of us. That's just the world we live in these days. And we see these videos that go viral of our people getting mowed down, and it ain't cool, man. I've had to take a break and step away from a lot of that world for my own mental health, right? We talk about mental health. I mean, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Our brothers aren't necessarily rushing into getting mental health counseling. They're not rushing to sit down with a therapist. And maybe we should. Maybe we need to make, have the conversations being had about normalizing what it means to go see a therapist,
right.
More black and brown therapists, and have group sessions, whatever it may be, because we've got a lot of stuff that's continuing to happen, and all of this plays a part in our psyche.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's mental warfare, really what it is. And I think one of the greatest things that came out of the pandemic, probably the only greatest thing that came out of the pandemic, is a reassessment of the work-life balance. How it was important that even though we were working from home, we could not be on 24/7 because we were at home all the time. Yeah. So, there was a lot more talking about, okay, it's one thing to, yes, you're working from home from 8 to 5, but you've got to give yourself a break to recharge, to replenish. And again, I think the Great Resignation or the Great Reshuffle was a response to that, because I think that people were realizing that, the 9 to 5, the 8 to 5 rat race, it ain't the thing anymore. It was a huge culture shift. So I think what we're experiencing is a culture shift on all fronts, from health to poverty to politics. I mean, again, the election that's coming up for the state, it's just a lot of the shifts and the generation shifts are happening, and it's affecting all fronts. And I think COVID really was the beginning of that, even though COVID can come and go, and, the pandemic can come and go, but we still have, and again, these issues were here before COVID happened.
Absolutely.
And I think because, again, we were, for the first time in a long time, we were stationary. We didn't have anything to distract us, like going to work or going on vacations. We had to literally deal with the the everywhere-ness of it, if that's even a word, of seeing and experiencing the breakdown of the systems that are around us.
Yeah, we have deep, intricate philosophies and ethos that shape who we are as people. Part of the reason we have you at the table, we continue to bring inspiring people to the table, is to share and normalize these visions and these thoughts. You know, what you love, you don't necessarily choose. What you love chooses you.
Yeah,
poetry, right? Mm-hmm. In this case, writing. You know, sharing some of this knowledge about gentrification, right, and climate justice. You know, for here, we don't have an audience per se. We love everybody, right? Anybody that wants to listen, come on, get some. Anybody who wants to come to the table, we welcome you. Yeah. We want to have conversations with everyone. But it seems, for me particular, for Gylon here, we bring a lot of black and brown people to the table, right? Mm-hmm. And we do that, and it just happens to be that way. It just works out that it's that way.
Of course.
And because that's what we love. We love our people. We need to vehemently proclaim our love for each other, which is sometimes you don't see, right? Mm-hmm. That stuff don't sell. People like the drama, right? They like the drama. The drama sells in mainstream media, right? We talked about how everybody's digging up Will and Jada's history now because that's what they want to get into. They want to dig it all up.
Yeah.
Right. And I've never been attracted to any of that stuff. Man.
Yeah.
You know, so what I'm saying is that we have a love for black and brown people, and we need to have patience with each other. We need to have understanding and be kind to one another. And that looks like a lot of different things, but one of the things it looks like is us having this conversation right now.
Oh, definitely.
You know, it looks like a lot of different things, you know. Our people are not perfect. Our people are far from it, you know, but we need to be understanding and patient with our people and nurture our people and help them along because everybody's stories are continuing to be written right now.
Absolutely.
You know, we're not the finished products yet.
Absolutely.
And myself included, right? You know, I want to be a great host. I want to be that next, you know, person that's delivering great sermons on the mics that are unrehearsed and unscripted.
Yeah.
But it comes with practice. It comes with work, consistency. We've been at this table for a few weeks now. I was telling Gylon we're probably 30 shows deep or so, which is impressive.
Yeah.
Because we wonder, hey, who's watching? Does it matter who's watching? No, we just want to come out here and do what we're going to do because that's what our love and passion is for.
Yeah.
And so you're that way as well because this is your third book that you've written. And I understand you have a show coming up that you're going to be, you know, showcasing the work.
Yeah.
And so tell us about that show.
Yeah. So, you know, for me, the photographs were very important for me to showcase with this project. And I was very much inspired by how artists do art shows and exhibitions and how it really is a performance in and of itself because you have onlookers who are like looking at the work. You have the artist that's there that's either engaging or not engaging at all. And, you know, the question that came to my mind is, does it matter if the artist is there for you to perceive their work or receive their work? And to me, I don't think so. I think, you know, if the work inspires you or if something or if it motivates you, it shouldn't matter who's in your presence. And so this art show that I'm doing, it's going to be at the Carver Library. It's going to be on April 30th from 2 to 4. And one of the things I've gotten known for with my works is that when you come to like either it's a book signing or an art show, it's not going to be traditional. You know, I don't play it safe in anything. You know, the same way I integrate, you know, mixed media like photography and poetry. I do the same thing for, you know, the experience of it. And so I always like to have art in addition to the books itself. So it'll be a part book signing, part art exhibition, but also a gathering of the minds rather. You know, I really want to intentionally make it to where when people come to this event, you know, they are changed and they're engaged, and I use different mechanisms and symbolism to, you know, encourage or invoke thoughts that they'll leave thinking, oh, I now think of gentrification in a different way than I did before.
Yeah.
Or, oh, you know, I'm not into poetry, but I see poetry more than just words on a piece of paper. I see it as a language that can be spoken between writers, but also readers as well.
Yeah, that's what's up. So you have a voracious work life. What do you do when you're not working? How do you spend most of your time? What do you do for fun?
I spend a lot of my time being quiet and being still.
That's what's up, man. That's good.
I think that certainly over the 2 years that we were in the pandemic, I really started to reassess that, okay, I'm an artist and I'm a writer and I do all these great things, but that's not all I am.
Yeah.
I really have to dig deeper into like who am I when the mic turns off? Who am I when the lights turn off? Who am I behind, the cover of the book or things like that? And, for me, I like to sit still. I like to, watch TV. I like to listen to music. I like to just even sometimes take walks and just really allow myself. And it's really hard because, they say, turn your brain off. I can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm always thinking about ideas or, story ideas. And I literally have to like stop myself and say, okay, story time, like creating time is not right now. You can create tomorrow. You can, just put I'll to take my phone out and I'll say, okay, notate this for an idea, put it away, and then go back to, being quiet or sitting still, doing yoga, because I think that just like with anything, if you do too much of it, it's bad for you after a while because you just become like very much like a machine. And it's like, okay, I'm not a machine. I'm a human person, So I definitely just be quiet. I be still. I hang out with friends. I have conversations like this, with friends, and I even sometimes in my own head, like, what is the meaning of life, type of thing. And it's like, again, it's a loaded question, but it's something that keeps my brain going.
It's good because inspiring minds, intricate people have to have those conversations. We ain't talking about necessarily, hey, just the weather, right? I mean, we're talking about deep introspective topics about life and the mysteries and wonders of the world, that still haven't been solved. And, the depth is important, man. I don't think, nobody really likes shallowness that much, right? The depth is the opposite of being shallow, right? And so exploring those wonders of the world is what has our minds up thinking late at night. I'm the same way. I'm up late at night, even though I wake up super early. I'm typing notes in my phone, reminders, sending an email, a quick text. And I think part of the reason I do that is because sometimes you forget. Mm-hmm. Oh, someone sent me a text the other day. I didn't respond. Oh man, I was rude. They're going to think I ghosted them or something. Yeah. And it's hard, right? You want to be everywhere. Yeah. You want to help everybody. I got an inbox the other day about supporting a campaign to fund some young artists to go, abroad. And, I wish I could give them millions of dollars, but I can't right now. That's not to say I might not be able to at some point in the future, give them some money,
course.
But you want to support everybody. You want to do everything. I think that's part of, of me and being giving. And, we want to have all our people win. You touched on that. We can all win. Yeah. All of us can be successful. All of us can get the bag, get money, be successful, and so I try to encourage
be the
people.
Change. Yeah.
Be the change, be it all. I try to be as encouraging as possible because there's enough negative voices out there.
Yeah.
So what else, man? What else is on your mind?
You just touched on it. I mean, the idea that, no one likes shallowness, right? But we kind of live in a culture that promotes shallowness, these little sound bites of like moments and trying to get as many likes or as many views on a short period of time. And it's like, well, there's so much more to that person than that picture, than that video. We mentioned it, we were talking before with the whole Will Smith situation. I think, we've gotten to a place in our culture that it's very voyeuristic and very parasitic. We love to just pounce on celebrities because, we feel a sense of ownership. I'm watching your movies. I'm listening to your music. I'm going to your concerts. I'm buying your merchandise. I am buying into your commodity. So I deserve a return on my investment. So I'm going to, watch your shows. I'm going to follow you on Instagram. I'm going to call you out if you say something crazy. I'm going to share a video or a tabloid soundbite because, again, I feel like because I've brought stock in your career that I deserve to say what I want to say. And it's really sinister like that when you think about it, because, you know, it's almost like, not almost, it is, you know, we are actively taking part in someone's downfall just because they're quote unquote famous, just because we feel like we can. And I think that more than anything was shown during the whole incident. I mean, you've seen the fallout that Will has now gone through. You know, he's banned from the Oscars for 10 years. You know, there's sources saying that his movies are on halt now because there's just so much bad publicity. You know, there's just so much going on that it's really, it's symbiotic. It's feeding on itself.
Man, like you said, parasitic.
Yeah.
You know, I can't fathom how humans have such a negativity bias. Isn't there enough negativity? Isn't there enough doubt? Isn't there enough hate in the world, even that we create in our own minds? Like, why do we feed off that as a human species? As a kind, like, why does it bring us pleasure to see someone else's downfall? Like, how come in the news all they share is bullshit?
Because I think it appeals to our emotional beings. Like, it's either entertaining, it's shocking, it's horrific, and it's kind of it basically persuades. I mean, think about it. Media is tricks. Media is smoke and mirrors, right? You know, and art is smoke and mirrors. And again, as an artist, I'm kind of calling myself out on this, because as someone who creates something, you are creating something to invoke emotion. So you kind of, in a way, know what you're doing, and you kind of want there to be an emotion. So you're playing the villain, but you're also trying to be that sort of that sacrificial lamb to move it forward. But it's up to you to figure out, okay, how far am I going to take this? Am I going to like take it to where it's going to be controversial and it may cost someone their livelihood? Or am I just trying to bring awareness to a topic that needs awareness, but is it good awareness or is it bad awareness? So I think with the negative bias, I just think that, again, we're just in a culture that's insanely voyeuristic, that we just love. It's entertainment. It really would. It is. You know, it's something that we find funny or we find crazy, and it's snuck itself into our everyday language. I mean, you think about the early days before social media. You know, you really could just pick up like a magazine and read the news. Like, you weren't seeing it every day. You weren't seeing it several times during the day. You know, and so you really had to find it, or you really had to, you know, like it wasn't as palpable as it is today. And I think that we're certainly at a crossroads with that, because I think that, you know, who's to say that a person who's famous isn't a person at the end of the day? You know, they have feelings, they have struggles all the time. It's just that their struggles and feelings are on a bigger platform than, say, you and I.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think that the reason why I say social media plays a role in that is because it blurs a line between interaction. Because, you know, if you're that lucky person that you know, so-and-so talked to you on Facebook, or so-and-so tagged you on Instagram, you know, you feel like, oh, I'm special because, you know, Beyonce liked my page, like my post, or Will Smith shared my tweet. And so again, you feel a sense of ownership because they picked you out of a million people. And so you feel the right to say or do what you want to say or do, because again, I'm buying into your career. So I can say what I want to say because, again, you're doing what you're doing by my money. I'm fueling your career.
I think we, and when I say we, not just you and I, but everybody, we as a species, we as humans, we as fellow community members and brothers and sisters that realize that our lives are undoubtedly intertwined, have to make a vow, a pact, a commitment that we will seek a deeper understanding with each other. Like, it can't be just pull out a gun and shoot somebody.
Yeah.
Like, how is that the answer? It can't be, oh, write this person off forever. Let's just discard these people and put them in prison. Like, why does it got to be that way? We have to seek a deeper understanding with our fellow brothers and sisters, be softer, kinder, and gentler with one another, or else we're going to continue to just spiral out of control. I mean, to make judgments, to be prejudiced of people, I mean, it's not going to work for me. I refuse. I will fight like nobody's business.
Yeah.
I will flip this table over right now for y'all watching at home if it's going to be live like this, because I can't do it.
Yeah. And for me, you know, I found this, you know, again, being an active person on social media, you know, there's this post that says, I no longer fight. I just disengage. I disappear. And I'm that kind of person. You know, you can have your opinion, you know, you can have, you know, whatever it is you want to do, but I will not engage in something that I know is not going to move me or move you forward. So I'll just disappear, or I will not come around, or I will, you know, change my direction or change the trajectory of my life, because who am I? Why would I need to feed something that's not going to feed me back?
Yeah.
You know, so I think that, and I think it has to do with just remembering that we're humans at the end of the day. You know, I think that a lot of it has to do with whether it's, you know, it's shooting an unarmed black man, or it's the celebrity takedown. At the end of the day, it's dehumanization. We're dehumanizing that person, and when you're no longer a human, you know, it opens up more room for violence, more room for controversy, more room for just complete and utter obliteration. If you think about it, either on a metaphorical sense, like what's happening with Will Smith, or a literal sense with that gentleman in Michigan.
Michigan, yeah. And I think it comes back to this misunderstanding that everybody wants to be the top dog.
Right.
And what people got to realize is there are no top dogs. There's just dogs.
Yeah.
And so we got to be careful. So let's get to a lighter side. I understand you're practicing yoga now. Mm-hmm. Tell me what got you into yoga.
You know, it was a myriad of things. It was just wanting to reestablishing my health. You know, wanting to really take that back and take that ownership back. I'm not the kind of person that likes to go to the gym. I'm very I'm just very like embarrassed. Like I can't stand when people look at me. I know it's crazy. I'm in the wrong industry for that, right? But then I thought to myself, well, I mean, you know, there's steps. You know, I can start somewhere and I can work my way up to the gym. And one of the things that I started doing was yoga, because what I like about yoga is that it helps with mindfulness. It helps relieve stress. It helps, you know, you getting to know your own body, you know, and understanding that, you know, how you move and, you know, the different ways that your body moves is unique to you. And that's what I like. And I also like that it teaches you patience. I think a lot of times we're in a never-ending rat race. It's like, you know, you get up, you eat food, you know, you go to work, you go to you go with this friend. Like we're constantly making plans to do something, or we're constantly doing something that we're not really being active in the here and now, you know. And I feel like for me, yoga helped me with that. Like it helped me realize, oh, like instead of me like thinking about, oh, I want to get to this stage, and I want to, you know, be this when I'm this age, or, you know, trying to get somewhere, you know, it makes me realize, well, no, you've done a lot so far, and enjoy what you've accomplished. You know, marvel in it. You know,
mm-hmm.
you know, sit in it for a while. You know, I remember. So when I graduated with my master's during the pandemic, and I made a vow to myself and to anyone who asked me. I said, I do want to go back for my PhD. That is something I want to do, but I'm going to give myself a full 10-year break before I do that. People are like, why so long? Or, you know, like all the different reactions. And I said, because I have spent a good majority of my time in education, from like kindergarten all the way till graduate school, just constantly just chasing to get to the finish line. You know, it's like elementary school, done. Middle school, done. High school, done. Then college, and then grad school. And then it's just like, okay. You know, and then I realized that, you know, I've been like, that's been my mechanism for so long that I don't know what that's like to not be in that mechanism. So I feel like, you know, a good 10 years will will help me, and will sort of force me reevaluate everything else that's going on around me when I'm not in school. You know, and then people say, oh, you won't go back then if it's been 10 years. Like, I don't believe that. I think that, and I actually might be I might be more mentally and physically ready, in 10 more years, because again, you grow naturally. And so, yeah, I definitely like that with yoga. It helps you with your mindfulness, and it helps you really sit still and evaluate where you're at in the here and now.
A lot of great aspects to yoga. If you're not practicing yoga, I would encourage you to do so. Phenomenal practice for the mind, body, spirit. Strengthening is lengthening. That's what I like to say about the muscles. And, it does help you, get your mind still and mindfulness and practice being present and in the moment.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things I love. And we're getting near the end of our show, sir, but it was a pleasure having you here. I want to give a quick shout out as well. Something else transpired this week where we lost another young black brother, Dwayne Haskins, if I'm not mistaken, Ohio State quarterback, former Ohio State quarterback, currently he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers, was struck by a dump truck late Sunday morning, I believe it was. And he was a phenomenal quarterback, age 24. And so we talk about movement. We talk about how we express ourselves through, the physical being in sport, fitness, whatever it may be. Yeah. This young man had a whole life ahead of him outside of the game of football, but he was a phenomenal football player. We lost him this week. I seen him play in college, and I thought he was phenomenal. And he's gone too soon. Yeah. And so rest in peace to him. To any of our young brothers and sisters that are experiencing tragedy, I wish you would keep going through it and get through it, because, life can be tough, but it doesn't have to be. And there's help out there, and there's resources, and we have to, again, be softer and kinder with one another. As I've been saying, we've got to work with each other.
Definitely.
And so, I just wanted to mention that because, I'm from Michigan, and we have an affection for people from Ohio State football. So I had to say that because it's all love. But I was sad when I saw that, man, because he had a whole life ahead of him. I was looking forward to seeing him playing this year. But yeah, man, I'm glad you came through.
Thank you for having me.
What's next for Fernando?
Oh, that's a good question. In the near future, just promoting Maverick. I have my art show on the 30th at the Carver Library, so hopefully you guys can check it out. More books, definitely in the future. More experiences. I definitely want to see more of the world. I definitely want to contribute more to the world, and just more living, honestly.
That's what's up. So give us some closing words. We'll let you close out the show. Thank you for being with us here, my friend, and we'll let you give the closing thoughts to all our friends, fans. We appreciate y'all joining us tonight, folks. You could be a lot of places on social media, but we got some people that have been watching and rocking with us for a minute. So let's give them a shout out and give us some final words.
Thank you guys again for rocking with us and engaging with us. And be sure, again, if you're a lover of poetry, a lover of art, be sure to follow me at Frame Reference Media. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and then my website is framereferencemedia.com. And if you want, definitely buy a copy of Maverick, and I will definitely sign up for you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, folks. It is Wednesday night. We are closing it out. I hope you have a phenomenal night, a great Thursday coming through tomorrow, and come back with us next week. Make sure you like, follow, share, subscribe, VODPOD Media. Next week, right here in the studio, we'll have Carolina Teague, the original Meep girl. I don't know if you know anything about that, but she's sports talk radio host, analyst, thought leader in the space. We're looking forward to getting her here, mix it up. About a year ago, we had a live NFL draft party right here, and we're bringing her back to get down one-on-one, and we're going to talk all things sports. She's great. Make sure you follow her on Twitter. And that's it. That's the show. Thanks so much, folks. We love you, and we'll see you soon. Peace.